We have discussed what it is, how it works, and now I'm going to give you a demo of our tool that we use here to really visualize this data after you've built your model. So let me steal the screen away from the presenter here. All right, I think we're good. All right, so this is our web app that we have created for Meridian MMM. And you'll see here that we can have multiple models. In this dropdown, normally with clients, we'll have a quarterly model that we can just drop down and see how things are changing over time. But on this first page, I want to show you is the Meridian Summary Report. Now, this is the stock output that you get with Meridian MMM. So what you're seeing here, anyone that builds Meridian can get this, right? So this is a PDF that shows you all your stats, and these are just, made up numbers here. This is not any client data, but these are the outputs that you get from your MMM. And this is great for sending in an email, maybe for like a presentation that you would give once a year, once a quarter, that sort of thing. But what our clients were telling us is that they really wanted a way to experiment with the MMM. They wanted to go in their office, close the door, and try different scenarios. What if our budget goes up 10% next year? What should we do? What if it goes down 10% next year? Do we lower all the channels by 10% or just remove one channel, right? So we spent a lot of time building this budget optimizer, and a lot of people are quite fond of it. So what you can do is basically for your entire market, everywhere you sell, or specific markets. So say you wanted to do the West Coast of the US, just California, Oregon, and Washington, you can run a budget scenario. So we have different scenario types that you can run. Most people, I think, choose the fixed budget here. And basically you would choose a date range that you're looking to optimize for. So this can be over a quarter, over a year, whatever time interval you want. You can set your budget, and you can even set constraints per channel. So say you have a pre-existing relationship with an advertiser, with a channel, you can go in and say, I don't want you to change this channel, but you can change every other channel, that's fine. So you set up all these different constraints, and then you go ahead and click Run Optimization, and then we'll get an output for what the model thinks is the best way that you can spend that budget. So this is actually doing the math in the background. Every time you run this, it is running a new simulation. So we'll wait here for 20 to 30 seconds before we get some output, and then you'll get to see what it thinks, how we should spend our money.
Wouldn't it have been funny, Zach, if you said 20 to 30 minutes?
Yeah, as I keep waiting here, I'm like, I hope it
We're
comes up
on a
soon.
webinar doing a demo. The law is that it will not work. Hey, we broke the law.
Alrighty, and yeah, so here is the output, and of course you can save this in different file types to easily share it around. And the output that we're looking at here, you're spending the same exact budget, and it thinks with the optimized spend that you would have gone from a ROAS of 2.9 to a ROAS of 3.15 here. So not spending any more money, just changing where you spent that money. It thinks you could have increased your revenue about $1 million in this instance. So great numbers. And yeah, we have several charts that we can output that if you'd like, we can change these too. I have one client that hates pie charts. So if you're not a big pie chart fan, we can remove that for you. But also integrated here is the Google's Gemini. So if you want to ask questions about what you see on the screen, you can always reference that. That's on each page actually to get a sense of what you're seeing. So very popular page. I'll jump into a couple more here that we often get favorited by our clients. The next one I'll talk to is the response curves, and I'll just pick a different model here. So response curves, what these are a measure of saturation. And so when I'm explaining this, the example I like to give is, let's say you're going to work again, you're driving into work, You hop in your car, you start driving, you look up and you see a billboard for your product, right? So you see one time, and then you're driving, you're halfway there, you see that same billboard or the same ad, different billboard. So you've seen it 2 times, and then you pull into the parking lot at work, park in the car, and then you see that same billboard for a third time. So you've seen the same billboard 3 times on the same trip. Are you going to be 3 times as likely to buy that product, or are you going to buy it 3 times as many times? I think most marketers would agree that that is going to be a no, right? That's not usually the case. And so that's what these curves aim to measure, is the response curve, or the saturation. As people view your ad more and more times, it has less and less of an effect on them. So with this tool, what we can do, it's very similar to the last one, except it's on a channel by channel basis. We can take a look at specific channels, and we can get a sense of what the saturation is for those channels. So let's take this one, for instance. Our baseline budget allocation for it over this time period was 184,000, and I can see, if we were to raise or lower that, what is the expected increase that we expect to see with our KPI. So we can see the green line here is where our current spend is, and then we have a dotted green line where the proposed spend would be, and we can get a sense of the metrics of the current ROI and then that marginal spend. So that extra $18,000, it thinks that we would get a spend, or excuse me, an marginal ROI of 1.24. So for every $1 we spend, we get $1.24 back. And then an updated ROI, so before we were at 2.73 for all our spend for this channel. After that next $18,000, it thinks we'd be at 2.6. So really handy tool if you want to zoom in and take a look at your channels on a channel by channel basis. And then I will jump to what I call the nerd corner next, where we can take a look at our models and know how healthy they are. So a lot of clients that we have been working with had been using MMMs before, using things maybe like Northbeam or Robin, and they would say things to us like, how do we know that this is actually reflecting reality, right? So like, this is what the model says, but it doesn't necessarily map with what we think is happening. And so that, I think, is a big advantage to Meridian, and one of the, I would say, my personal reason why I think it's the best MMM that I have worked with. So it gives you a lot of ability to see what you put into the model versus what it thinks reality is. And so let me give you an example here. Let's take a look at ROI. So this is, again, return on investment, ROAS, for your paid media. What we have on the screen here is our priors for each channel. And so what I'm saying is, I think that my return on investment is, in pink, is a 1.13 here. And let me also describe that it is a distribution. So never is an ROI going to be static. It's not going to be 1.2 every day in every location throughout time. It's going to go up and down over the season, over the location. I think everybody accepts that. So that's why we give it a distribution here to say the ROI is going to be in this region. So that's what we supply it with. In pink is the prior, and then in blue we have the posterior. And what that is basically, what does the data support? And so we can see with a sense of clarity what we think is reality versus what the data supports. And that is really the biggest benefit of using Meridian, is that not only you have this ability for ROI, but you have it for everything that goes into this. You can take a look at these distributions and get a sense of how well what you think is happening is captured by the data.